What's up, guys? We're back with another episode of Chat with Will, and this week is going to be all about habits. We are doing a 12-week, 3-month little topic series, doing different topics every single week, and it is a live recording, so you guys can actually come in and join in on these conversations as well as watch the recording for the YouTube channel afterwards. I'm super excited to dive in very deep to habits because habits have been very important to me and really changing my life for the better. When I really started focusing on what I was habitually doing was when I really started seeing true progress in my life and outside of my life as well. So, without further ado, here is our co-host, Dr. Edwin Adams, who's going to be co-hosting this show as well as giving us some awesome insights as well. How you doing today, Edwin?
Doing fantastic, Will, and I'm excited to talk about habits as well. Habits are kind of like a love language for me in my coaching program because specifically that's exactly what is needed is the creation and implementation of new habits in order to create new routines and disciplines that carry us toward our goal. So this is such a critical topic and the foundation of all things transformation, growth, and personal development. So great choice today for a topic, Will.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, habits is something we all have, good or bad. But a perspective that really kind of blew my mind was we have to realize and be aware that whatever our situation that we're in today, our exact experience, our exact life is just a result of our habits leading up to this point. So if you are unhappy with where you are in this single moment, most likely we can dive into your daily habits and see what has led you to this point because our actions and our daily habitual actions literally determine what we become and determine our life in so many different ways.
Yeah, well, I think, if I had to dissect the problem that people run into, it is because to what you exactly just said, people don't think enough into who they want to become through the process of behavior and habit modification. Does that make sense? So
Oh,
we focus so much on the habit and the behavior in hopes that one day we become something else, but we don't have clarity on what that is. So I really appreciate that you're starting this conversation talking about who it is we want to become because that's
yeah.
so crucial up front.
And a lot of us
My name is
ha-
Tyler Devereaux. I'm inviting you to
oh,
attend my brand new tour.
something's popping up. um, I kind of lost my train of thought, but you know, like I have said many times before, what we habitually do is truly what we become, and there's so many of us who will set a goal or a very vague idea of what we're trying to do or what we want to do, but a goal is just a dream unless we put some habit or practice behind that goal, and that's how to actually turn a dream into a reality and to actually accomplish a goal is to just kind of clarify what we're trying to do, who we're trying to be, what we're trying to accomplish, and then create some sort of daily habit or daily practice that aligns with that goal that's going to inch us a little bit closer to that destination a little bit every single day. And it kind of reminds me of that famous quote who that I love so much from Abe Lincoln, that if I had 6 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend the first four just sharpening my axe. So if you don't know what to do, I feel like the best things that we can do is just start to create some sort of habits that is going to improve yourself, or to make yourself feel better or to make yourself happier or healthier in some sort of way. And that's kind of what brought me into all of this was it was just about 4 or 5 years ago where I was in a really low place in my life. And it really seemed like every thought that I had was negative. Every experience that I was going on in my life was negative. Everything was a real struggle. And I was really facing nothing but problems all around me. And it didn't start changing till I started really starting to do one good positive habit, and that's what really started this whole process, was actually the Wim Hof breathing. Because my big brother, who's been one of probably the best mentors to me in my life, he's seen how low of a place that I was in. I was, half my body was broken. I had a broken femur, a broken leg, a exploded knee. I couldn't walk. I was going through all of these physical injuries, which habits led to, as well as I was really struggling emotionally and really struggling mentally, having a lot of mental health issues as well. And my brother just recommended one thing. He just said, "Yo, have you ever heard about this Wim Hof breathing and this Wim Hof method? Try that." And so I started doing a bit of research on Wim Hof and everything that he was doing, and it seemed crazy, but it almost seemed crazy enough to work. So I figured, well, I know oxygen is good, and I know stepping out of my comfort zone is good, so let me just try this one habit. And then once I started that one habit where, my brother talked me through the first session, and I felt, of just 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing after a cold shower, and I felt better than I have since I was a kid. So I told myself, all right, if I don't do anything any day, I just want to do this every single day. And that's exactly how it starts. Just find one habit that, for me, my goal was just to feel better. Like, all I knew was I was in a bad situations in my life, inside my head, inside my body. My body and my mind just felt broken. So I just picked up this one habit that I felt like could make me feel a little bit better every single day. And then all of a sudden, that habit led to this awareness, this ultra self-awareness, to I started to really realize all the habits that were holding me back, and all the things that were truly important to me. And during those Wim Hof uh, sessions, especially during those breath holds, I started to become extremely familiar with my habitual way of thinking, and how I habitually react, especially under uncomfortable situations. When I told myself I was going to take a cold shower every day, when I stepped into that shower and I had the option to turn it warm, I had the option to turn it cold, I started getting familiar with my habitual thoughts of where it went when I would try to do something uncomfortable that I knew was good for me. I habitually would start talking myself out of it, and the same excuses would come up there as they would come up when I was trying to pursue anything of importance of myself. And then, for the first time in my life, because of this thing, I was able to sit in stillness long enough to read a book. And then once I don't mean to get ahead already on the what of good habits, but already going from the first good habit of the Wim Hof breathing to the second good habit of reading a book, then all of a sudden everything started changing, and I had less time for bad habits. Because what I found, if I just focus on trying to implement one good habit at a time, I would have less time for one bad habit. And then one good habit, once I dialed that in, would lead to more habits, because I built this momentum of extremely powerful. Are you there, Edwin? You kind of froze up on me.
Yeah, I see
Are
your
you there?
Wi-Fi is doing its thing again, Will. But yeah, I really appreciate that point, Will, because in this discovery, this awareness, I truly believe that we need to remember we're already in a habit that got us to a particular destination that is making us feel this certain way about who we are. Knowing that you got in this habit, some people call it a rut because it's a bad habit, but nonetheless, you are in a habit. You are exhibiting behaviors that are taking you to a particular outcome. You have an opportunity with that heightened self-awareness to do something differently. But it is an understanding that the behaviors you were doing are the actions. So that's the things you repeat over and over and over again with discipline that create a habit that functions subconsciously. So you're doing the habit without thinking about it. Does
Yeah,
that make sense? You're
exactly.
doing the routine without thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's the level you've got to get to, because clearly the rut habits that got you where you are today have been happening subconsciously over a
Sure.
long period of time. And now it's going to take another long period of time to get you out of that to become something different. So this isn't quick fix, right, Will? This is formulating beliefs, driving behaviors, driving habits that become subconscious discipline.
Oh yeah, for sure. Nothing with long-term, long-lasting results is gonna be a quick fix, and that's a big issue that I've seen so common, not only in myself, but the people I work with and the people I talk to, is so many people just don't even they're not even aware of their habits that they're doing, because they're almost in autopilot mode. That's why I feel like my story has been such a great transformation because the first habit that I picked up just raised my awareness, to where I was becoming ultra aware of my thoughts and ultra aware of what I was doing. And then I started reading, which brought me to this book called The Compound Effect, which I highly recommend if you're struggling with habits. I can't even remember the author, but it was actually one of my favorite books I've ever read, called The Compound Effect. And it really just shined the light on first of all, bringing the awareness of realizing that, look, whatever situation I'm in right now is a result of the habits that I've been doing, and if I want to get somewhere else, I have to somehow change these habits, and another book that I read, what was it? Think and Become Rich, really helped me realize that, look, if I wanted a positive life, I had to have positive habits, habits of actions, habits of thoughts, and habits of, what I was habitually doing. And and what's be and what's extremely powerful is we don't even realize, like, okay, we wake up in the morning and we immediately grab our phone, and then crawl to grab a cup of coffee. It doesn't seem like a big deal. It's not going to kill you at the end of the day. You're still going to get through your day with everything that you need done, most likely. But what we don't realize, that over 6 months creates what you called a rut. That over 3 years, 5 years, 10 years creates this habit that's so hard to get out of, that literally altered our final destination in some way or another. As opposed to, when I read that book, The Compound Effect, it just made me realize just one tiny little habit of, okay, what if I woke up in the morning and instead of grabbing my phone, I just stopped, I got on the ground and I set an intention and I started breathing, and then, I felt a little bit better that day, especially for the first 20, 30 minutes. So I can't complain. But then after doing it for a month, all of a sudden I had a really good month. I had a month that was maybe one of the best months I've had in a couple years. But then when I did it for 6 months straight, I, I was in a completely different state, and you can say that as a completely different state of mind, or even, in location, it felt like too, because, if you were leaving, the east coast of the USA, trying to take a ship all the way to Europe or Africa, and if you changed the degrees just a little bit, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, in 6 months to a year, you're going to end up in a different country. If you change 2 or 3 or 4 habits, you'll end up in a different continent. Like, you might end up in Africa, or you might end up in, England or something. So it's like, under a small scale, it doesn't seem like it makes that much of a difference. But throughout our lifetime, it could literally be the difference in living this amazing, flourished life and accomplishing everything that we intend to accomplish, or coming up just a little bit short on every little thing that we pursued.
Yeah, that's a great book, Will. Darren Hardy wrote that.
Oh,
And if you like a movie version that kind of speaks to that, the butterfly effect is a very similar concept, in that one tiny change on the other side of the planet can make a big difference on the entire other side of the globe. So yeah, the rocket engineers understand what 1 degree changes really mean in the long term. It is the difference between an astronaut either making it back home or skipping off the atmosphere and going into space. So it's a big deal. So
Oh
we
yeah, and that's so metaphorically to literally what we're trying to go through. We're either going to hit our target or we're going to end up somewhere in space that we had no control over. And when we control our habits, we in a huge part control our destination. Like obviously it's a dance with the universe and everything that happens in our environment, but it's also more than half of what we do. And by just pushing that needle just a little bit forward, if that's making yourself feel better, emotionally, physically, anything, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, David's mentioning there's a great book entitled The 2 Degree Difference that talks about the Apollo mission to the moon. And it states that if the trajectory was changed by just 2 degrees, that the rocket would have missed the moon by over 2,000 miles.
Yeah,
So we run into that in our daily lives. My son and I were just having this philosophical conversation, Will. I know you would have been proud. I wish you were there. I needed backup. But his comment to me was, man, I would love to make $3 million next year. And I was like, well, fantastic, son. That's great. And he immediately went into the how and the what of the process of making $3 million. And it was overwhelming and he didn't know where to start. And I was like, wow, why do you want to do that? So we went through the why exercise. And finally, after about 12 questions of why, we got to something we could stand on. And then right behind that was, who is it that you need to become as a person in order to do all those things that you wish to do because of your why? And man,
yeah,
we stopped there after a couple hours of conversation, never getting to the how and the how and the what of making $3 million. He realized who he had to become in order to be eligible for that kind of income. And that's an incredible awareness, right?
oh oh yeah, yeah, for sure. The why always seems to be the most important, especially when you're trying to do anything or accomplish anything, is first know why you're gonna do it. And I think that's um it's funny, the why of your habit is um, much connected to the how. Knowing your why is exactly how you're going to actually make it happen. But before we get to the how, because that's the third point, what we're going to end up on, I want to talk about the what. What are some habits that I've learned throughout my life that I've personally experienced to have made the biggest impact and change in my life and making my life better mentally, physically, emotionally, environmentally, not only for me, but even working with, now I'm starting to work with so many other people, teaching them these habits and, what's working for them as well. And I already mentioned, the first thing is can have time every single day to block and shut everything out and just connect with yourself. For me, it's been breath work, just to stop every single morning before grabbing your phone, which is another habit. One of the biggest bad habits that I see almost every single person do. And, I'm not completely innocent myself. It's probably 4 or 5 days a month that I fall short on this too. But one of the worst habits that we all do is we wake up. The first thing we do is grab our phone. And then we grab our phone and we crawl out of bed, and sometimes we'll go straight to the coffee. So we'll wake up just to consume what's going on in the world, what's going on, consume this external thing just to start our engine, as opposed to waking up and checking in with ourselves first before we check into the world, to check in with ourselves before we consume anything in our external environment. Let's check into with what we're doing and what our intentions are and what we're trying to accomplish. And that's one of been the biggest factors for me, because when I first set that goal for myself of, hey, I'm going to do this Wim Hof breathing every single day. It became really challenging to start doing it every single day because then all of a sudden it was like 2, 3 o'clock. I'm like, all right, I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. All right, it's 5 o'clock. All right, dude, I'll do it. I'll do it. And then it's this stressful thing that I have to get done throughout the day. But then just starting to create some sort of a morning routine of like, look, I feel the best and it's the easiest to get this done when I just wake up and do it. Right. So, and then I started reading more about morning routines and I started realizing a wonderful habit to wake up and make my bed, because instead of waking up and consuming and reacting towards all of these things that want to take our attention, I was waking up and being proactive with what I wanted to get out of my life. And then that's when I started seeing in my external environment actually real results, which became even that much motivating. So I woke up in the morning, and the first thing I still do till this day is I drink two big glasses of water just to make sure my brain and my body are lubricated and ready to go, and this alone can be huge just to wake up, because I think over 70%, you might know the exact number closer, doctor, but I'm pretty sure it's over 70% of our mind and 70% of our body are water. So just to, and we're going to be the most dehydrated when we first wake up in the morning, because your body just used so much water to do all that cleaning and repairing and digesting and all that stuff. So we're going to wake up extremely dehydrated. And that's what's going to cause a little bit of a brain fog. And that's what's, kind of make us feel a little bit sluggish inside our body, that maybe we get 5% less out of ourselves that day. But remember, 5% over 6 months, 2 years is a lot, so to wake up and 2 big cups like this, I'll have 2 good big glasses of water. And then another habit that I like to do is a little apple cider vinegar with some sea salt, just to give myself some minerals and turn on my gut digestion. But within the first 30 minutes, and this is without grabbing my phone, one of the most impactful habits that I do every single night is I put my phone on airplane mode, and I don't turn that on until I've accomplished something that's going to get me closer to where I want to go in the morning. And most of the time, my mornings are filled with just trying to sharpen my own saw and make myself better. So that's where I connect, I write, I connect it with my breath, which, I talk about so many times has been probably the most impactful, life-changing habit, is waking up every single morning, setting that 15 to 30-minute timer, depending on how much time I have, and just feeling and connecting to my breath. Because what I found is when I stopped and just connected to my breath and just felt my breath and listened to it going in and going out, my mind would go somewhere else and I'd let it go and bring it back. And then my mind would go somewhere else. I'd let it go and bring it back. And that just moment of awareness, of being aware of where my mind went and bringing it back, builds a rut of what you, so to speak, a rut of presence. So now it becomes easier throughout the day to be present because I'm practicing it and I'm teaching my body that first thing in the morning. And then what this also does is after 6 months of that, you become really aware from observing where your mind habitually goes when you're trying to do something. So then you just become more familiar with what you habitually do and how you habitually think. And that's when you can start changing the buttons and really starting to manage yourself a bit better.
Yeah, so much goodness right there, Will. You'll be happy to know I'm 21 days into a new rut and I'm enjoying it, Will. So, my morning routine is the moment my eyes open, I go into breath work. Now, it's not Wim Hof, it's box breathing, 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 second out, 4 second hold, that kind of cycle for 30 minutes. So, before I even get out of bed, I'm breathing and I'm stretching and I'm waking the body up.
Yeah.
No phone, no technology, no nothing. Then it's straight to 2 glasses of water. Then it is straight to exercise. And then and only then, after I've made the bed, showered, prepared for my day physically, that I can turn on the phone. Because, man, can you imagine opening your eyes, flipping on your technology is the exact same thing as having 100 people screaming at you in your bedroom.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? 100 people commenting at the same time, and you're trying to pay attention to all these voices and your body hasn't even woken up.
Yeah.
Will, doing that for 21 days has been a game changer in productivity, in satisfaction, and in health. So kudos to you for making me become aware that I had some bad morning habits.
Yeah, like, I always notice like my best days start with a good morning, a good morning routine because the first 30 minutes, 60 minutes of your day literally set the tone for your day. I noticed that, the better I did my breathing, the better I communicated with others, the better I made my food, the better I ate that day, the better I performed that day in every single way. And it's just so powerful to wake up and take conscious control over your focus and energy, as opposed to waking up and just letting whatever's blowing the wind by you to take your energy and focus. And that's like I said, is going to set that tone of productivity and really just getting the job done.
Yeah, that
A few
reminds
other
me. I mean, you as an athlete, Will, I like to use the word prime. Before a race, you need to prime your mind and your body to be prepared for the battle ahead. It is no different in the morning.
Yeah,
You need to prime your mind,
yeah,
because if you wait to give yourself the priority and try to fit it in later in the day, you're not priming anything. You've
yeah.
become a victim of your circumstances. So that's no way to take on the day, is from a victim standpoint. You need to start the day off strong, with who you can become through the application of these
Yeah.
habits and behaviors.
Yeah, you're spot on. And if you don't believe us, I promise you, for the next 30 days, I challenge you, for the next 30 days, sleep with your phone on airplane mode, preferably outside of your room. Sleep with your phone on airplane mode and don't turn it on until you've gotten on the ground and did 15 minutes of just connecting with your breath, make your bed, shower, do your morning routine. Your morning routine doesn't have to be what Edwin's is. It doesn't have to be what mine is. But what I found is, if you put those daily things that you have to do every single day, like brushing your teeth, showering, meditation, or writing in your journal, if you put those things into a morning routine to where you wake up and you don't have to think about it anymore, it's not costing any mental energy that, will run out by the end of the day. And just have that first 30 minutes to an hour focusing on what you want to focus on. It's going to make the biggest difference in setting that tone for the day. But anyways, I challenge you, 30 days, don't turn your phone back on until you finished your morning routine. And by the end of this conversation, I want you to create your morning routine. And that's going to be a later topic that you can join in on that conversation as well by going to chatwithwillgrant.com. I believe if it's not next week, it's a week after or something like that. We're going to go over morning routines. But yeah, phone on airplane mode and see how much better you feel. You might feel only a little bit better that day, and then a little bit better the next day. But after a week, it's going to feel really good. After a month, looking back, you'll be surprised at how much better you slept that month. And 5% better sleep is, that much better performance throughout the day.
Absolutely. So, Will, I know a lot of people go straight to the how. How do I create new habits that are subconscious? I don't have time. I feel pressure. There's an outcome that I need to have. So, what's the best way that we can set people up for success in developing good behaviors that create the routines that are the foundation for habits?
Well, like we talked about earlier, first you want to know the why, why you're trying to improve your habits. Take a pen and a piece of paper and write that down. Clarify why you're trying to improve your habits and what you're trying to get out of it. What are you trying to accomplish with improving your habits? And then if that's to, you know, get in better shape or feel better mentally or be better for your family or be better for your wife or your kids or your husband, know your why. And then you can kind of figure out what's to do past that. And what helped me so much was I gave myself this 2-day rule. Okay. When I knew what I was trying to accomplish and why I was trying to accomplish it, I picked that one habit that I knew would be the most impactful for me. And like I said, that first habit that I did was every morning I did breath work. Okay. And I gave myself a 2-day rule, because what I noticed is if I went more than 2 days, I lost the habit. I lost the momentum. I quit doing it. But hey, every day is not always under your control. You could wake up in the morning and your house is on fire, and all of a sudden you had to rush out of your house and you didn't do your morning breathing, and then guess what? Oh, I messed up my whole habit. Now I might as well give up. No, no, no. That's why I gave myself a 2-day rule, because your house can't burn down 2 days in a row. Okay. So and something crazy can happen one day, but the odds of it happening 2 days, and if it does happen, the second day, you still got to get it in. Okay. So just giving myself this 2-day rule, so I never lost the momentum. I never lost the inertia. So if something crazy happened that day, I gave myself that one day of forgiveness, that one day of grace. But then if I missed that day, it was the most important thing to me to make sure the next day, if nothing was accomplished, I got back onto the swing of things. So and what that's going to do is it's going to build that rut, because that's all these habits are ruts. And every time you do the good habit, it builds that rut a little bit deeper. And every time you overcome that mental autopilot of doing the bad habit, that rut gets a little less deep. And then you start to build new ruts, and that's how you build new habits. But it happens day by day. Just know every time you do it correctly is a success that makes it easier the next day. What I noticed is if I missed my breathing one day, it made it that much harder to get it done the next day. Especially with cold showers, especially, like once you take cold showers every day, it's a little bit easier to get it the next day, a little bit easier to get it than next day. We have this 15-year-old up and coming athlete, so I'm trying to lead by the example. I'm telling myself cold showers every day that he's here, just to make sure he's on them too. And then we all decided after a long week of training, all right, Sunday night, we'll take one warm shower. Okay. And I'll tell you, the hardest day to take another cold shower was the next day after the warm one, because it's so fresh. And that's what it feels like in building that rut. The more you succeed, the easier it is going to be to succeed. And the more you skip out on those bad habits, the easier it's going to be to get in the good ones. And instead of just focusing on all the bad habits that are bogging you down, just focus on the good habits that you can implement. And I found nutrition is the same. If you focus on the good foods, you don't really have much room for all the bad foods, and habits are, yeah, definitely the same. Oh, and also 6 months, give yourself 6 months, because if you do the habit for 3 days and you're like, that's whatever, like you really didn't even give it enough time to work. Like 30 days is bare minimum. Like if you decide, hey, this is my goal and this is what I'm trying to accomplish and this is why I'm trying to accomplish it, like if your goal is to lose weight, to be healthier for your family, to be able to play with your kids more, your habit should be waking up every single morning and just getting some movement in, going out, and that's one of the best habits that we could all do for our mental and physical health, is just walk outside and go for a walk, getting some movement outside into our environment. That's your habit, and just give it 6 months. Don't give it 3 days. Don't give it 4 days. A week is okay. A month, you'll see it, you'll feel it, but give yourself 6 months. Because what I've noticed is another rule that I noticed when I started changing myself drastically was another 6 month rule, right? When I would change my mindset or change my habit, it took 6 months until I started to see any real result in my external environment. I felt it internally. I felt a little bit better, but to actually see anything of positive change in my external environment, of how people are treating me or just how things are working better, it took 6 months, so whatever goal that is, I recommend 6 months. Wake up every day, get some movement and get some breathing and get outside every single morning and watch how much better you feel and how much more you've done for yourself and the people you care about the most in 6 months.
Yeah, so much goodness right there too, Will. Goodness, you're on fire today. So, what I liked initially, what you said about your 2 day rule spoke to what we all have to give ourselves, and that's a little bit of grace, especially when we mess up. And I think we're awfully hard on ourselves when we fail to keep the routine up that is going to be the foundation of the habit, and we fall off track, and then we just throw it all out and go, oh well, I'm not good enough. I knew this wasn't going to work, and you start that terrible cycle of speaking down to yourself. So I love the 2 day rule in that you build grace into the process,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that is so critically important. And as far as length of time, Will, we at least have to give these routines as long as we allowed the bad habits
Yeah.
to create those routines. So if you developed obesity or out of shapeness over a couple of years, well, guess what? You're going to have to put in that kind of work to fight that back, and you're worth it and you deserve it. So watch
And
that
mental
time.
health
That's
is the
important.
exact same way as well. Like mental health, a lot of it is how we're habitually thinking and what we're habitually doing. If mental health is something that you're struggling with, I know it almost feels like an accumulation. All these things are just accumulating through our lives that we're not releasing and letting go. And by doing some sort of one habit that is good for your mental health, like going outside, going for a walk in nature. Every study and every single culture has known that that is good for our mental and physical health. To do meditation or breath work or journaling or creating something, you know it takes years and it's only gonna get worse, unless we change that direction. Like I said, it's that that mental health is no different, and it's feeling like it's accumulating because that rut is getting deeper and deeper and deeper. So unless we kind of alter that direction, it's just going to keep getting deeper for sure. And I like what you said about the habits as well, but a thing that I don't like about the word habits is a lot of people think of the word habits and they think of this thing that we do every single day just without thought or without thinking about. And if we don't do it, it's not a habit anymore. But I like to think of my habits as practices, so like if you miss one day of that habit, that's okay. Like that's a practice of learning, okay, how can I stay on it a little bit better? And then every single day that I'm doing that habit, even if it's brushing my teeth, it's a practice of mindfulness. It's a practice of presence of how I can do better. So I'm not just waking up in the morning and, oh, I'm doing my breathing every single morning just because I do my breathing every single morning. But it's almost like, okay, I have this 10 or 15 or 20 minutes that I connect with my breath. It's not just a habit that I do mindlessly, but it's something that I do mindfully, where I'm using it as like a practice of connecting with my breath a little bit deeper, connecting with myself a little bit more, and just learning how to breathe better and learning how try to learn something new with each session.
I love this question from Hannah Rose. She's asking, what habits do you recommend to build a strong mindset? So, Hannah, I would start the conversation this way. The most powerful instrument on the planet is the human mind. So, you already have a strong mindset. What you may not have is self awareness of what is the voice inside your mind, which there are two wolves in there. One's a good wolf and one's a bad wolf. Which one are you feeding? So, which one gets the most attention? Which one takes control of your behaviors that drive these habits? So, pay attention to the wolves at play in your mind, and then start feeding the other wolf And I think through the application of these actions, these behaviors that Will's referring to, that your mind becomes stronger through the process of these actions. It's
Yeah.
going to come from action first, not thought.
Yeah. But another thing is every time you hear that dark wolf barking, you turn your back and then you feed the other one. So like every time I got a thought that told me I'm not good enough, or started to compare me with somebody else, I would notice that. I would be aware of that and then just literally tell myself I am good enough. Comparing isn't going to do anything. I need to put my attention on what I can control. And it's funny, I was literally asked that question this morning, from an athlete. Is like, how do you prepare yourself mentally, or how do you train yourself mentally? And the best, if you want a simple, almost a quick answer, a quick exercise of how you can improve yourself mentally, the answer is cold showers. Like literally everything that your mind goes through when you're jumping in a cold shower is strengthening yourself mentally. That is literally deadlifts and squats and all the heavy resistance training for your mental mindset. And then the next thing is turning everything into a practice. You do one thing the way that you do everything. So everything you do, practice being in the mental state that you want to be in. So it's not about, you know, just it's going to show up one day and you're like, oh, wow, I'm perfect. No, like it's an everyday practice of practicing raising your vibration to what you want it to be at. So that's doing the dishes, that's driving the car, that's exercising, that's, whatever your job is or whatever thing that you're creating into the world. You want to practice being in the ultra presence, ultra mindset of what it's going to take to be in that optimal level of performance. So the number one thing that I could tell you is cold showers,
Yeah.
and
Enough.
then number two is whatever you're doing, practice on doing it as best as you want to do every little thing.
Yeah, that's such a great point that this isn't a quantity of new actions or behaviors you're trying to implement. That's a quantitative decision. This is qualitative in whatever you decide to do, that it is the best investment in becoming happier, healthier, stronger. So it's not perfection. It is your best effort at the behavior and the action in front of you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pretty much spot on. If there's any more questions, just leave them in the comment box below. If you're live or on YouTube later, I do take time and go back and ask those questions. And, let's create this constant dialogue, this constant dialogue of sharing each other's ideas and sharing each other's insights to help bring up every single one of us. And another thing that can help you if you're still kind of confused and really just not sure where to start or what to do, I did create my 6-week Happy, Healthy, Strong course where I put all of my best, most effective habits, routines, daily checklists, workouts, everything into a 6-week Happy, Healthy, Strong and program that you can check out at thewillgrant.com. If you're looking for a complete jump start towards the direction that you're wanting to go, I think you're really going to like that.
So, Will, next week we are talking about morning and evening routines as a deep dive. So, I'm excited to
My
talk about
favorite.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When it's funny when I started doing the Wim Hof breathing, and then I started learning about all these habits, and then I realized that my day was going crazy because I had all these 4 or 5 habits that I knew was making me better, but I just had to get them done, before the day ended. And then I came across all these successful people talking about morning routines. And I was like, oh, whoa, maybe if I put it all in the first 30, 45 minutes of waking up, it'll keep everything organized. And boom, when I did that, when I created a morning routine based on my goals and the 4 or 5 habits that I wanted to really accomplish, all of a sudden my days, I was having the best days of my life, and I'm still doing that today. And now I'm able to adjust my morning routine, adjust my habits based on what I'm trying to accomplish that year, or this month, or even down to this week. So not only morning routines, but the evening routines as well. What I noticed is when I worked myself straight to sleep, I woke up tired, but then when I would give myself an hour or so before bed, turn my phone off on airplane mode and just again connect with myself and try to release all the built up energy and tension from the day, creating this evening routine, I was waking up feeling fresh and ready to go. And then when I started priming, I was reaching whole new levels of myself every single day. And this is all stuff that we talk about on this channel as well as are in that Happy, Healthy, Strong course. But I'm excited to dive deep into morning and evening routines because people really seem to be interested in that. I'm pretty sure my morning routine video is one of my most watched and liked videos. So yeah, if you want to get a little preliminary video, go over to YouTube and watch Will Grant's morning routine or whatever it's called, and join us next week. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, so everybody has the challenge. You have your challenge from Will Grant. So we expect some feedback on how you did next week when we show up to talk about routines. So you have 7 days to implement your morning and or evening
Yeah.
routine. We'd love for you
Phone
to come
on
back to the show.
airplane mode. If I can get you guys to do one thing that I feel like would make you better, which will in turn make your family better, which will in turn make this whole species better, which in turn makes the planet better. If I could think of one thing, I would tell you to put your phone on airplane mode before you go to bed and don't turn it on until you breathe. Stop, get on the ground, connect with yourself, connect with your body, and set an intention.
Fantastic. Will, this has been a great conversation. I look forward to next week, my friend.
Yes, sir. I will see you there, brother. Later, guys.